You walked outside with a plan. Water the tomatoes, maybe pull a few weeds, check if the basil needed pinching. 15 minutes, tops. That was over an hour ago. Your knees are sore, your hands are caked in soil, and the coffee you brought out is cold on the edge of the raised bed. But something else happened in that time, something you did not plan and cannot fully explain. The weight you were carrying when you walked out, the tightness in your shoulders, the mental fog from staring at screens all morning, it is not there anymore. You did not meditate, you did not exercise, you did not talk to anyone, you just gardened, and your entire internal state changed. That shift is not imaginary, it is not placebo, and it is not just fresh air. What happens inside your brain during 30 minutes of gardening is one of the most well-documented neurological transformations in modern science, and almost nobody knows about it. Today, you're going to learn exactly what happens to your brain after just 30 minutes in the garden. Minute by minute, chemical by chemical. And by the end, you will understand why some researchers are calling gardening the single most complete neurological intervention available without a prescription. Let us walk through what your brain is actually doing from the moment you step outside. In the first 5 minutes, before you have done anything productive at all, your brain is already changing. The moment you step out of the house and into a natural environment, your sensory system begins processing a completely different category of input. Inside, the inputs were screens, notifications, artificial light, climate-controlled air. Outside, the inputs are wind on skin, sunlight at varying angles, the smell of soil and plants, ambient sounds of insects and birds, uneven ground under your feet. Each of these inputs activates a different sensory processing pathway, and collectively, they signal something to your brain that four walls and a ceiling cannot. You are in the environment your biology was designed for. Research by the psychologists Rachel and Stephen Kaplan at the University of Michigan identified this as the beginning of what they called attention restoration. Your brain operates with two attention systems. Directed attention is what you use at work, in traffic, when you force yourself to focus on something that is not naturally interesting. This system depletes. It is a finite resource, like a battery. By mid-morning, for most people, it is already running low. The second system is involuntary attention, activated by stimuli that capture your interest without effort. A bee on a flower, the color of a ripe tomato, the texture of soil. These things fascinate without fatiguing. And in the first 5 minutes of being in the garden, your brain begins shifting from the depleted directed system to the restorative involuntary system. You have not done anything yet. You're just standing there. And the repair process has already started. Between minutes 5 and 15, you start working. You crouch, you dig, you pull, you plant. And this is where the second transformation begins. Dr. Kelly Lambert, a neuroscientist at the University of Richmond, documented a circuit she calls the effort-driven reward pathway. When your hands are physically engaged in work that produces a visible, tangible change, the brain releases a specific cocktail. Dopamine, motivation and pleasure, serotonin, mood stability and calm, and endorphins, pain relief and well-being. This is not a gentle, subtle shift. It is a measurable neurochemical event. And it is triggered specifically by the combination of physical effort plus visible result. Not exercise alone, not mental work alone, the two together. Pulling a weed is effort with visible result. The weed was there. You pulled it. It is gone. The bed is cleaner. Your brain registers. Action produced change. Purpose was served. Repeat. Every single small task in the garden, watering, transplanting, pruning, harvesting, triggers this circuit. And after 10 minutes of accumulated small completions, the circuit is running steadily. Your mood has shifted, not because you decided to feel better, because your neurochemistry changed. At the 15-minute mark, something else is happening that you cannot see or feel directly, but that researchers can measure in your blood and saliva. A study published in the Journal of Health Psychology took two groups of people after a stressful task. One group gardened for 30 minutes. The other group read indoors for 30 minutes. Both groups had their cortisol levels measured before and after. Cortisol is the primary stress hormone. It is what makes your shoulders tight, your sleep shallow, your thoughts spiral. The reading group showed a moderate decrease in cortisol. The gardening group showed a significantly larger decrease. And here's the part that matters. The gardening group also reported a complete restoration of positive mood, while the reading group did not. At 15 minutes in, your cortisol is already dropping. The stress you walked in with is being chemically dissolved, not managed, not distracted from, dissolved. Your adrenal glands are down-regulating. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and recovery, is taking over from the sympathetic system that was running your fight-or-flight response all morning. This is not relaxation in the casual sense. This is a measurable shift in which branch of your autonomic nervous system is dominant. Between minutes 15 and 25, the third transformation kicks in, and this one is the least understood and the most powerful. Dr. Christopher Lowry at the University of Colorado has spent over a decade studying a bacteria that lives naturally in healthy soil. It is called Mycobacterium vaccae. When you dig in the dirt, when your skin contacts the soil, when you inhale the particles that rise from freshly turned earth, this bacteria enters your system through your skin and lungs. And once inside, it activates serotonin-producing neurons in the brain, the same neurons, the same pathways, the same chemical that every major antidepressant on the market is designed to increase. This is not alternative medicine. This is not a metaphor. This is peer-reviewed neuropharmacology published in respected journals. The soil contains a compound that functions as a natural antidepressant, and every gardener on earth has been self-administering it, unknowingly, every time they put their hands in the dirt. By minute 20, if you're working with bare hands, or even with thin gloves, you have absorbed enough Mycobacterium vaccae to measurably increase serotonin activity in your brain. Combined with the dopamine from effort-driven rewards and the cortisol reduction from parasympathetic activation, your neurochemical profile at minute 20 looks radically different from your profile when you walked out the door. You're calmer, more focused, more emotionally stable, and more resistant to stress. Not because you tried to be, because the garden did it to you. Between minutes 25 and 30, the final mechanism activates. And this is the one that explains why gardeners describe losing track of time. By this point, you have been performing repetitive physical tasks in a natural environment for nearly half an hour, weeding, watering, pruning, adjusting. These tasks are repetitive enough to occupy the body, but varied enough to keep the mind lightly engaged. This is the precise formula for entering what psychologists call a flow state. In flow, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-criticism, worry, rumination, and time awareness, quiets down. Activity in this region measurably decreases. The inner monologue that runs all day, the one that judges, plans, regrets, anticipates, goes almost silent. This is the same state that elite athletes describe as being in the zone, the same state that musicians enter during a performance, the same state that meditators seek through years of practice. You reach it in your garden with a trowel and a bag of compost, and you do not even notice it happening, which is precisely the point. The absence of self-awareness is the signature of the state. You do not think about time. You do not think about yourself. You are fully absorbed in what is in front of you. And when you finally look up and realize that an hour has passed, the disorientation you feel is not confusion. It is the feeling of your prefrontal cortex rebooting after being offline. So here is the full picture of what happened in 30 minutes. Minutes 0 to 5. Attention restoration begins. Your brain shifts from depleted, directed attention to restorative, involuntary attention. The sensory environment of the garden signals safety and familiarity to a nervous system calibrated for exactly this kind of input. Minutes 5 to 15. Effort-driven reward circuit activates. Dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins are released in response to physical work producing visible results. Each completed small task reinforces the circuit. Minutes 15 to 25. Cortisol drops significantly. Parasympathetic nervous system takes over. Mycobacterium vaccae from the soil enters through skin and lungs, activating serotonin pathways independently of the effort-driven circuit. Two separate serotonin sources now running simultaneously. Minutes 25 to 30. Flow state engages. Prefrontal cortex activity decreases. Self-criticism, rumination, and time awareness go offline. Full present moment absorption. No pharmaceutical on earth does all four of these things simultaneously. No therapy session triggers all four in 30 minutes. No app, no supplement, no retreat. No workout replicates this exact combination. The garden does, every time, for free. So when you come back inside after half an hour in the dirt, and your spouse asks why you look different, why your shoulders are down, why your voice is softer, why you seem like a different person than the one who walked out, the answer is because you are. Neurochemically, neurologically, physiologically, you are a different person. 30 minutes in the garden did not just change your mood, it changed your brain state. And your brain state changed everything else. The most remarkable part is that you did not need to know any of this for it to work. It worked before the science existed. It worked for your grandparents. It works for the 5-year-old who digs in the backyard. The garden does not require your understanding. It only requires your presence. If this is the first time you're here and you recognized yourself in what you just heard, subscribe. This channel was made for people like us. And tell me in the comments, what do you notice first when you come back inside after time in the garden? What is the change that you feel but have never been able to name?